Today on the LA Food Podcast, I'm your host, Lucas Servodio, hoping you've packed your spacesuits because this episode is about to get intergalactic. Joining us today is Benson Tsai, CEO and co-founder of Stellar Pizza, the first and only pizza company in Los Angeles, if not the world, to be entirely powered by robots. Benson tells us the fascinating story of how he went from working on rocket launches at SpaceX to starting a visionary pizza company that's revolutionizing how we bring the age-old combination of dough, sauce, and cheese to the masses. But first, I want to tell you all a quick story of an epic social media bust-up I witnessed over the last couple of days. Eaters Bill Esparza went absolutely nuclear on taco chain Guisados for criticizing his most recent list of 38 essential tacos to try in LA. This was a fascinating face-off between LA taco royalty, and I walked away with a couple of key takeaways. I can't wait to share them with you all. So without further ado, let's chow down. There's nothing inherently shocking about a restaurateur taking issue with a food critic and what a food critic says. In fact, that's one of those things that's so inherent to the food world. It's been memorialized in many forms of popular culture, from Ratatouille to the recent satire The Menu to FX's The Bear. There's always a food critic involved that either says something nice that really elevates the reputation of a restaurant, or that perhaps takes issue with a dish or an entire concept and therefore really, really pisses off the restaurateur or the chef. I understand where the chef is coming from in those situations. I mean, anybody who is passionate about what they do is going to get upset, is going to feel some type of way when somebody criticizes them for what they're doing. I think that's only amplified when that criticism is directed towards what is not just your passion, but also your livelihood. It's really interesting to me what social media and the internet has done to this dynamic between chef and restaurateur. Between restaurateur and food critic, because whereas a food critic used to just write something in a paper that showed up the next day or the next couple days to the restaurant, and the restaurateur could, at best call the paper and complain, or maybe the next time the critic came to the restaurant, they could do something like spit in their food, or maybe have a conversation. I think that now with social media, that barrier, that sort of protective fence around a critic, if you will, is gone, and you're starting to see confrontations between critics, whether it's just a blogger or a proper reporter, and the restaurateur. You're starting to see those conflicts happen in real time. And this week, a really, really interesting one happened on Instagram when Bill Esparza just released his updated list of the 38 essential tacos to try in Los Angeles. And in that list, he omitted a certain Los Angeles institution that is very well known for their guisos. I'm talking about Guisados. Guisados started in Boyle Heights, I want to say, in 2013, and at the time was extremely highly venerated. It was, Jonathan Gold wrote about it, talking about how amazing their tortillas were, how amazing their guisos were, and it was a really kind of popular, sceney place for foodies to visit and to be seen for a very long time. They've since expanded and are now in Beverly Hills. They're now in West Hollywood. They're now in Pasadena. They've become a force of nature on the LA taco scene. But Bill is also a force of nature. He's been doing this work of, reviewing, finding, and telling people about taquerias for, the better part of 2 decades, maybe even more. And a lot of the best taco lists that you're going to see in Los Angeles are derivative in some way, shape, or form of work that he's done to quote unquote break the news of certain amazing taquerias. The list of the taquerias that he's quote unquote discovered goes on and on and on. From, I think he was the first person to write about Mariscos Jalisco. He was the first person to write about Carnitas El Momo. He was the first person to write about Tacos La Carreta, Burritos La Palma, Coney Seafood. It's a super long list and a very, very impressive one. Basically, what happened this week is that the owner of Guisados took issue with being left off of the list, which apparently he hasn't been on for a while. Guisados hasn't been on the list for a while, but the owner of Guisados took to social media to comment on the post that said, hey, we've got an updated list. Here it is. And the owner commented, no Guisados, must be a Bill Esparza list, crying laugh emoji. Guisados, the business account, then comments on that post and says 11 years and running trophy emoji, which makes me think they're either being ironic or they don't know how emojis work. Now, Bill sees this, and because we no longer have that barrier between critic and restaurant/chef, what does he do? He responds in real time. He basically does the equivalent of that Michael Jordan Last Dance meme, which is like, and I took it personally. And he went on a spree of stories on Instagram listing two things. One, his credentials for why a quote-unquote Bill Esparza list is actually something you should take seriously, and B, why he left Guisados off. Now, for the former point, he basically says, I've been doing this for the better part of 2 decades. I've discovered all of these places. He posts the quote-unquote receipts, aka like taco encyclopedias he's been publishing on publications like Los Angeles Magazine and the LA Times and LA Taco ever since like 2015, even before like 2012. He's been doing this for a long time. He knows tacos around Los Angeles like nobody's business. So he makes the case for that first. But then in a really sort of like shocking turn of events, he starts to go in on guisados as a concept. Now, for those of you who don't know, guisados are a type of Mexican taco that are served in a tortilla and are stews. They're stews served in a tortilla. They're a breakfast taco typically, and they're basically meant to be like a really hearty breakfast that you can have 1, 2, maybe 3 of, and just like be deeply satisfied, nourished, ready to go for the day. So he takes issue with the entire concept of how Guisados constructs their tacos. First of all, he says they're quote-unquote conceptually wrong. The tortilla is too thick and there's nothing to bind the milk toast guisos to the tortilla. He criticizes them for just giving you a spoonful of guiso as opposed to like a hearty serving. And then he says, he goes like one by one into different types of their tacos, talking about why they're actually not good. He says the beans are devoid of any flavor. He calls the steak picado mealy. He calls the cochinita stringy. I mean, it is an absolute like Al Pacino and Scarface level takedown of guisados. This was fascinating to me for a couple reasons. One, you're seeing two titans of Los Angeles taco gastronomy face off in real time, and that we can do that because of social media, which is absolutely insane. But secondly, it kind of reminded me that as a critic, as someone who's making lists, you've got to be able to defend why you're making that list, because you are inevitably going to be questioned about it, whether you're just, a small-time influencer or whether you're a proper critic like Bill Esparza. You need to be able to back up why you're giving some sort of rating, why you're excluding or including somebody from a list, and you better be able to like list the method for your madness. Otherwise, people are going to lose all credibility or lose all belief in you. And I think Bill actually, I think he was a little, aggressive here, but you got to give him props for being able to back up his opinions. Secondly, I think as a restaurant, from the restaurant's perspective, you gotta you gotta be careful, right? I mean, I absolutely support, conversations and even arguments. We should be able to have arguments about restaurant concepts and whether they work and whether they don't. I mean, that's part of the beauty of eating, right? Is being able to talk about it, is being able to exchange opinions on it, is be able it's that back and forth, right? But if you're a restaurateur, you should be warned that if you do this, social media, you can't just call the New York Times anymore and complain and then just like, sit back and not and know that nothing will happen. No, the person you're complaining to can respond and can do so very publicly. And I think actually Guisado's actually got much worse press by the fact that they ended up complaining about not being on the list than if they had just sat back and accepted that they weren't on the list. Now there's like an entire story that lives out there on why their concept is wrong, what's wrong with all their meats. I mean, it's really kind of, shooting yourself in the foot a little bit. Finally, I think there's just lists are something that people take way too seriously in general. As a person who puts together lists, I think it's safe to say nobody really wants to put together a list. You don't really want to exclude anybody. You don't, you feel bad. You always feel bad leaving people off. It's never perfect. I think even Bill Esparza, I have a feeling if in his ideal world he wouldn't be putting together lists. I think that's just a great sort of function to get people to click on a link. And in this day and age, that's what you kind of need to do as a newsroom, is find ways to drive links or drive clicks to your website. So I think, these lists are never, ever going to be exhaustive. They're always going to leave things out. So I think as a restaurateur, as a restaurant, you just can't take it too personally because, if you're a taqueria and there's a list of like 25 tacos and you're left off, guess what? You're in the majority. You are in the majority. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of other establishments that have been left off as well. I think just if I was a restaurateur in that situation, knowing the potential for blowback if I complain about this kind of thing, I'd probably just be like, okay, you know what? Keep my head down. I'm not included on this one. I'll be included on the next. And you know what? It does happen. Sure, there are some taquerias that are just the media darlings and they're included on every list, right? Or just restaurants in general that you seem to see on every list, no matter how, disappointing or inconsistent they might become over the years. But there's also other restaurants that just keep doing their thing, fly under the radar for a while, and then all of a sudden get recognized. I mean, we're seeing this happen in LA Tacos Taco Madness right now. There are certain taquerias that have been doing it for years, but that are like only this year being included in the competition and are doing really well. So, hey, all I'm saying is it's not that deep. I don't think you should treat it like it's that deep if you're excluded from a list. And, I was just absolutely flabbergasted by this whole thing. I think the stories are probably gone from Bill's social media by now, but if you're interested in seeing what he wrote, I did happen to screenshot all of the stories, so DM me and I'll send them your way. But it's enough about that. It's time to talk about a topic that I love just as much as tacos, if not more, and that's pizza. We're going to be right back with Benson Tsai of Stellar Pizza. And real quick, let me say, Pizza City Fest is coming up this weekend. So if you haven't gotten your tickets now, I'm giving you a PSA right now. Go get them because Saturday is already sold out, but Sunday is still available. So go get them. We'll be right back with Benson. I could not be more excited today to be joined by the CEO and co-founder of Stellar Pizza, Benson Tsai. How are you doing today, Benson?
Fine, thanks. I'm excited to chat with you today.
Thank you for joining us. Benson and I recently had the chance to meet at a little pre-party for Pizza City Fest, the event that's coming up this weekend. How are you feeling for the event?
Really excited to be a part of the pizza community, specifically in Los Angeles, where I was born and raised. So it's fun to see such exciting kind of pizza related events here in LA versus elsewhere.
It's really had a pizza come up, Los Angeles, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think I saw some article talking about how LA is becoming the next big pizza city. So I'm here for it.
You're here at the right time. Well, you said you're born and raised here. Whereabouts were you born?
Yeah, I was born in Beverly Hills, just
I've
because I think that's insurance sent my parents there. But grew up in Whittier and Hacienda Heights, in San Gabriel Valley. Yeah,
Awesome. And where are your stomping grounds now?
I live in Redondo Beach. Yeah,
Okay,
so
so quite the difference. You've gone from inland to the coast.
yep. It's the weather's a little bit better, closer to the water.
Yeah, I bet less heat, especially in the summer months.
That's right.
Um, and you didn't set out for a career in food, but from speaking to you, it's clear that you have a passion for it. So I'm curious to know, what do you trace your passion for food to?
Yeah, so my parents are immigrants from Taiwan, and they grew up there. Taiwanese culture. Have you ever been? It's
I haven't. I have not.
obsessed with food. Is what how I would describe the culture over there. We greet each other in the street, asking not "How are you doing?" or "How are you," but we ask "Have you eaten yet?" or "Are you full?"
I love
Uh,
that.
yeah.
The answer
So
the answer for me is always yes. Always well, the answer is no, but please make me full.
Yeah. Another fun little note about Taiwanese culture: that if you go to the National Palace Museum in Taipei, the Mona Lisa of the museum, or the main attraction of the museum, is actually a rock that looks like a piece of braised pork,
Oh my
and
god. I love
and
that.
yeah, and then next to it is a jade stone carved to look like Napa cabbage, and so that's kind of the, they're the pinnacle of Taiwanese kind of history and art.
So truly
Yeah,
obsessive about food.
yeah. Um, so naturally, when my parents moved to Los Angeles, they actually opened a restaurant. It was a fish and chips restaurant. It was called Uncle Hank's Fish and Chips, authentic English food. And
How did they choose English food?
it was a lot easier to like cook English like fish and chips, fry things than to actually make Chinese food, and so that was kind of the
Yeah.
business they got into, and that was their big first business in America, which allowed them to get their green cards. But they didn't speak any English, and they were able to survive in LA, which goes to show like the immigrant hustle is very real.
Well, that's authentic because a lot of British people don't speak English either. So all good there.
Yeah.
Well, where was it?
It was in Alhambra. I don't know how
Uh
well you
huh.
know LA, but Alhambra, San Gabriel Valley as well. And I think they ran that for a few years before they realized how difficult it was to run a restaurant in America, or run a restaurant at all. And so they stopped that, and then both of them started separate businesses. One in import export picture frame, and then the other in Chinese education.
And were you born pre or post restaurant?
Just right at the changing point is when I was born. Yeah.
Got it. So you don't have any stories of growing up manning the fryer and
No,
slinging
no.
fish or anything like that. No. Uh,
Um,
well,
yeah,
so okay, so food is clearly runs in the family, but
yeah.
you haven't worked in food forever. From lore, I know that you started out or you were before starting Stellar Pizza at SpaceX. Is that
That's
correct?
correct. Yeah,
What were you doing there?
yeah. So I was designing battery systems for the spaceship, as well as the I was in charge of the satellite battery system, the power system for the satellite. And we were I just designed. I was an engineer. I was heads down. Just I felt like I had a blank check to design the coolest batteries on and off this planet, and it was a wild ride. I was there for 5 years, really loved that era of my life and can talk a little bit more. But I guess additional context is before SpaceX. I'm not sure we discussed this when we met, but I was a part of the early team at Lucid Motors where
Mm-hmm.
I developed the battery system, the battery architecture. A lot of the patents that Lucid has on battery design are under my name, and I was a part of
Wow.
the electric vehicle era, uh, and so I've lived a very very storied kind of life.
Yeah.
But but pizza and food is sort of my passion, and I've taken all of the resources and all the connections that I've gathered throughout my career, and now I'm channeling all of that into Stellar Pizza.
Not to get super nerdy, but
Yeah,
it's pretty obvious how the batteries come into play with electric vehicles. Excuse my ignorance, but where do the
yeah.
batteries come into play in space travel? In fact, that seems scary. If I don't want a battery powered rocket ship, you know?
No, no, but everything that controls, anything, it needs electricity, right?
Yeah.
So I remember a moment when the Starlink prototypes were flying in space, and one of the first bit of telemetry of data that we get back from space is actually the battery voltage. So
Mm,
really, the battery is the heart of the vehicle. It is what enables everything else. It keeps all the electronics alive, so we can monitor the pressures, we can turn on the right things at the right times. The battery is the heart of any spacecraft.
good to know. So
Yeah,
it sounds like from your career, you have a
hmm,
knack of getting into things like right when the boom is happening versus the electric vehicle, then is space travel and sort of, the privatization of that. And now obviously the next frontier is pizza, clearly.
yeah.
But believe it or not, for a lot of people that's not such a clear through line. So I'm curious to know, how did you go from that world to this pizza one?
Yeah, well, throughout my career, I've sort of really lived a life where I've always made the uncomfortable choice, or made the choice that allows me to learn the most.
Hmm.
And it's been true, even before electric vehicles. I worked at my mom's second business, which was a tutoring center, and I was teaching and educating kids. When I remember being in fourth grade and teaching kindergartners, right?
Hmm.
So I was always working and always learning, and so this ethos of constantly being, or constantly not knowing what I'm doing, is something I got very, very comfortable with, and it's something
Hmm.
I actually enjoy. So when I left and, you know, was afforded the opportunity to work on electric vehicles, work on spaceships, it was just like, why not?
Hmm.
But I remember distinctly watching or building the batteries for Starlink, and standing on the factory floor at SpaceX, and realizing that I was bored, and that's when I knew it was time to move on.
Wow, I don't think I could fathom how someone could get bored of like space travel, but here we go. Clearly we're not all made equal, huh?
Yeah, yeah. Food is just something that I've always loved, and if you really look at my career, you could, since Stellar Pizza, which we haven't really talked about too much, but it is a fully automated pizza food truck, right? If you
Yeah.
look at that, I've been designing vehicles my entire career, right? So there is a
Hmm.
logical through line to go from electric cars to spaceships to pizza trucks. It's really about putting really interesting technology in a mobile system.
Yeah, no, it's funny you frame it like that because oftentimes when you talk to somebody about their career, it seems like, oh, of course that was the next step, or of course that was the next step once they actually lay it out. But we all know that these things take a little serendipity, they take a little chance. I'm curious, what put the seed of the idea in your head that this was something you want to pursue?
Yeah, it's always been something I've thought about. My academic degree. So I went to undergrad here in Los Angeles at Harvey Mudd College, at the Claremont Colleges, and then I got a degree in chemical engineering. So chemical engineering is the discipline where we actually scale up manufacturing processes,
Hmm.
and a large part of the department at the University of Minnesota, where I went. supported some of the work done at General Mills, where we were,
Hmm.
producing food at scale. I remember sitting through a lecture on how to coat frosted flakes with the right amount of sugar, and I did research for Wrigley's where we were characterizing bubblegum material properties. So I've been loosely associated with the food world and really enjoyed that work. I just got distracted with the shiny things in Silicon Valley. Before Lucid Motors, I actually started an electric truck company with a
No
college friend
way.
of mine doing, it's called Motive Power Systems, and it's around today. They design most of the like step van electric vehicles in America right now.
Wow.
Yeah, so started that company, got involved in Lucid real early, and it's just like I don't know. There's no. I feel like if I already know what's gonna happen in the next 6 months, that's, like, not exciting to me. I like living in this very, very uncertain kind of world where I get to choose what story I want to write with my life.
And so, speaking of that story, when did you decide to take the plunge from leaving SpaceX to do the do Stellar Pizza?
Yeah, yeah, 2019 is when I left SpaceX, and, 2 of my co-founders of Stellar Pizza actually were the ones who were really excited about starting a company, and the
Hmm.
3 of us loved food. We would often, go out and seek out new foods to try, talk about different foods, explore all of the LA food scene, and it was pretty logical for us to want to start something in something we were passionate about, and they just my co-founders James and Brian happened to be expert roboticists from Carnegie Mellon University, and so we had the technical skills, and I
Hmm.
had the experience of working and founding a startup, and so we just kind of put all of our heads together and realized that there was a really really great opportunity in helping solve the affordability crisis with food these days.
So that was what problem you were looking to solve:
Yeah,
affordability.
yeah.
Interesting, because you're thinking
Affo-
if you can
Mhm.
lower the cost via removing labor, is that the
Yeah.
idea?
Yeah, that and also our technology allows us to move and cook. At the end of the day, we wanted to help solve the problem of affordable delivered food as well. So,
Hmm.
if you can imagine a fleet of sprinter vans that are cooking their pizza on the way, cooking your pizza on the way to your house, that would make convenient delivered food, more affordable for everyone. The idea of having a restaurant that can move and serve hundreds of people with minimal effort, without minimal staff, we can help solve some of the food desert problems we have in Los Angeles and in America.
So was pizza always the going to be the product, or did you bandy around ideas for other types of food that could be automated?
Yeah, yeah. I looked at a lot of different food items. Actually, funny enough, we started looking. Well, I started in an area that I was very passionate about, which was boba, and
Uh-huh.
wanted to get freshly made, high quality boba into everyone's hands because my parents are from Taiwan, and Taiwan is the birthplace of boba. But just realizing the greater market opportunity with pizza, and also pizza being another food that I loved. It was like the only American food allowed in my immigrant household. So I was just like, yeah, I love
Really?
pizza just as much because it was affordable, and food is not as affordable these days. So I think, yeah, the robotics is interesting from a cost savings perspective for a business. But what we've done with our technology is taken the cost savings of the robotics and allowed, we paid more for higher quality ingredients. We pay our employees better because we have fewer of them,
Mhm.
and we share the cost savings with our customers.
Okay, so I wanna hear all about the actual process of the pizza making and
Yeah,
sort of like, how like where the robots come in, you know? But
yeah.
I first I wanna hear, did anybody try to stop you when you told them you were going to leave SpaceX to do this?
No, I mean, I was there for 5 years, and that's sort of I was there
Yeah.
for 76 rocket launches. We went from not cartoons of rockets landing on boats to landing on boats. Starlink was just a dream, and then we were launching them at the end of my 5 years there, and I felt like I lived an entire aerospace engineer's career in those 5 years. So there wasn't really much like anything really stopping me. And when I told, funny enough, my parents were always like, "When are you going to start your own business?" Uh,
Oh,
and and and
really?
and my response was always like, "I'm a rocket scientist. Like, aren't you proud?" And they're like, "No, no, 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 don't work for anyone." So they've always been entrepreneurs, and that's always been the expectation. I was the only person in my family who actually ever worked for anyone.
Yeah.
Um, and so it was sort of just a culmination of
I
life
think
events.
that's the
Yeah.
title of your autobiography someday. I'm a rocket scientist. Aren't you proud? I love that. Okay,
Yeah.
so talk to me about when you actually started leaving and making the robots, right? Like, was the idea for the entire process to always be entirely automated, from the making of the dough to the mixing of the ingredients, all of it?
Yeah, we took a look at where automation was used in any sort of food production process, and ultimately, like a lot of the dough manufacturing, all the dough being made in a bakery, in a big bakery these days, is actually fairly automated. There's a lot of
Hmm.
equipment that you can buy off the shelf, and you just need a person to move material from one place to another. Um, at the pizza making level, though, there's still a lot of, there's a lot of human labor involved, where you're putting the toppings on, you're spreading the sauce,
Yeah.
you're opening, and not necessarily opening the pizza, because if you go into like a Blaze pizza or a Mod pizza, you see the press kind of pressing out the dough. So we were just kind of excited that everyone's been doing these like little baby steps towards automation, but if you could get rid of the labor, or human involvement in the entire process, you could actually streamline and create a much more interesting restaurant experience, where you don't have any sort of the time lag, or the delays, or the inefficiencies of having people involved. And that's kind of what we built. We automate. We didn't design new machines to automate dough production, because that those machines already exist.
Those
What
are,
we
yeah.
did, yeah, what we did automate was the pizza making, from dough ball to, pizza, fully cooked pizza at the end of the day.
Hmm.
And our machine takes a dough ball, it picks the dough ball up, it opens the dough with a double-sided heated press that then allows for our topping system to add sauce, add cheese, add we freshly cut pepperonis onto the pizza, and dispense the other, bell peppers, sausage, etc., onto the pizza, depending on what the customer ordered. Fully automated. There's no person looking at what pizza this was, supposed to. The machine already knows what it needs to make, and it can make a pizza in about 4.5 minutes, fully
Wow.
cooked. Yeah.
So the dough making, the dough mixing, all of that,
Hmm.
those robotic capabilities already existed out there, and it was mostly just about finding the right ones for your purposes.
Yeah.
But the ones that you all created were, or really sort of had to innovate, were the ones that had to do with how the pizza is built after the fact. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah, it's with, handling the dough, keeping the dough stored at the right temperature. It's with opening the dough, and then adding all the toppings, and ultimately cooking the pizza, which is uh, no one had really done that fully automated in a very, very small footprint.
Yeah.
We've been eating. I like to tell people that we've been eating pizzas made by robots for decades in the frozen pizza industry,
Oh yeah.
and
Are
and
those are
we
those fully made by no, but they still have people involved at
They
some
still
point,
have
right?
some people, yeah, but it's
Yeah.
largely automated. And what we've done is take a lot of that, borrowed a lot of the inspiration for those machines, and applied them to our small little truck. And we've taken modern engineering methods, modern electronics, and shrunk everything down into this very, very, very small box, this magic box that makes delicious pizza.
And so what about the actual pizza itself, the recipe? How did you all
Mhm.
develop that?
Yeah, well, we scoured the internet. We made, I think, probably like 50 or 60 different recipes, and we started to
Wow.
hone in on what we liked, what we didn't like about each. I remember going to New York and just eating pizza nonstop, 3 to 5 times a day, just to understand pizza culture. And we landed on not necessarily a Neapolitan pizza, which are they're very delicious, but you have to eat them within the first like 10 to 30 seconds
Yeah.
of them coming out of the oven. We landed more on a New York thin sliced pizza that would taste amazing right out of the oven, but for maybe 20-30 minutes afterwards as well.
Yeah, so you would describe your pizza closer to New York style than
Yeah,
anything else?
that's right. That's right.
So if
Yeah.
a New Yorker rolls up to Stellar Pizza, are they gonna be like, "Hey, I recognize this," or are they gonna be like, "Not quite"?
It's inspired by, I should say. We don't do the double, you know how in New York when you get a dollar slice, they usually have them sitting out for a little bit and then they
Yeah.
reheat it to make it crispy and dry. Ours are only cooked once and they're still pretty crispy and pretty delicious. But it's definitely inspired by the New York slice.
So right now you have trucks, right?
Yes.
You have and so how does the experience at one of your trucks work for a
Yeah.
consumer?
Yeah, so our consumer would right now we're largely servicing college campuses, so a consumer would be in their dorm or in a classroom, and they could just pull up our Stellar Pizza app and look at the queue and just be like, okay, I need to order a pizza, and they'll order a pizza from the classroom, and as they're walking back to their dorm room or to their class, they'll just stop by and carry out and pick up their pizza and go, and so it's very much a digitally native experience with no humans taking in orders and telling the machine what to do. The customer orders, and that app tells the machine what to do, and it tells them exactly what time the pizza is going to come out because we know everything's automated, everything's scheduled, and so they
Wow.
can go and pick up their pizza at the exact point in time. There's no waiting around for our pizza.
And it's perfect for a famously non-punctual demographic like college students, because if you were making Neapolitan, they would have to be right there to pick it up
Yeah,
in order for it to be good. But the fact that it's good for 20 to 30 minutes later, that's
yeah.
kind of perfect for those procrastinating college kids.
Yeah, yeah, and we're able to run, a pizza despite taking 4.5 minutes for one pizza to get produced, we're able to run a pizza every 45 seconds to a minute. So we can do, 60 to 80 pizzas an hour.
Wow. So am I right in saying that it's rarely that long of a wait if you're ordering Stellar Pizza?
We are actually doing pretty good. Sometimes our wait is 40 or 50 pizzas deep, and so that we there's still a wait. You can't get around the fact that there's just high demand during certain times, usually late night for us after 10 p.m.
Yeah.
Uh, but in general, it's pretty fast. And the crazy thing about our idea or our technology is once we get more vehicles on the road, we can sort of have multiple vehicles follow demand throughout the day. And if a particular location gets too crazy, we'll just bring a second truck. Immediately cuts down the wait time in half, right? So we're learning where we should move all of our vehicles and long term the idea is to have these trucks be in office parks at lunch, be it in family neighborhoods between 4 and 6 p.m., 4 and 8 p.m. to serve kids dinner and their families,
Hmm.
and then go to college campuses or be at bars at 2 a.m. right when they close, and it's this dynamic. We're an entire restaurant, labor efficient restaurant with the ability to pick up and move, at the snap of a finger.
And when you're deploying a truck, is the only like employee involved the driver?
Yeah, so right now we have a driver and we call him a pilot and a co-pilot, and
Mm,
that's only because it's fairly lonely by
yeah.
running a restaurant by yourself. But also, if there's any scenarios where someone needs to use the restroom or whatever, we need two people to man every single truck. But it also allows us to focus all of our training and all of our labor on the customer interaction at the point of pickup versus taking ingesting orders. It really maintains that human presence for a restaurant.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. I like the compassion of it. It gets lonely. You need that co-pilot.
Yeah.
I can imagine just being alone with the robot all day. It's just like talking to ChatGPT.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so I'm interested in your investment trajectory because you got investment a first
yeah.
round, and then your
Mhm.
second one, there was someone who's relatively famous involved. Is that right?
Yeah, so formerly it was the investment was led by Marcy Venture Partners, and Marcy Venture Partners has three general partners, one being Jay Z, and then
Ah,
Jay Brown, who is also equally as amazing as Jay Z, and then Larry Marcus, who is a very quite famous venture capitalist and amazing board member for us, but yeah, we definitely are working with some pretty amazing people on the
did
investment side. Yeah.
has Jay tried the pizza?
Jay Z doesn't eat pork, I believe, but he's waiting on our beef as well. We've had most of the team has tried the pizza though. Yeah,
Okay, good, good, good.
yeah.
I'm curious to know what how Jay Z reacts to pizza in general. If he's like, "Haha, you crazy for this one, Benson?" No.
Yeah. I don't know that I can talk to that specifically.
Not yet, not yet.
Yeah.
Um,
Um,
so okay, so you're not coming from a pizza background, but you are now getting involved in the pizza community in Los Angeles. You just went to
yes.
Pizza Expo in Las Vegas. I'm curious, did you have a little bit of like anxiety when you're rolling out this pizza to the pizza community about like, oh my God, what are they going to say? How did you navigate that and how did it go?
Yeah, I would say I had a crisis when I started this company of like initially I was like, should I just sell pizza robots? And the challenge with selling machines that could like everybody's going to have a different cheese, a different sauce, and when you're getting off the ground, you can't build a machine that does everything. Or otherwise it will just suck at doing everything.
Hmm.
And so we decided to take the path of bringing automation into the world with our own brand initially. Where we go from there, long term, I'd be excited to lower the cost of living across all food categories, not just pizza. Right? I want to build machines that build burgers and burritos and tacos. But um, for us, I was like, I think the right call is to sell pizza, and the crisis is like, who am I to come into the restaurant world from the rocket science world, from the
Yeah.
electric vehicle world? But then I realized I knew a finance guy who opened a coffee shop, and I knew another like engineer who opened like a burger joint. Right, like
Yeah.
people enter the restaurant world from whatever walk of life they come from, and they enter and are generally welcome with open arms. And so for me, I that realization allowed me to be like, oh, I can just, as long as I do right by my employees and do right by my customers, and really just recognize that I'm not here to disrupt anything. I'm here to make the customer experience a lot better. I was that's kind of what gave me the peace of mind to enter the restaurant industry. And yeah, I was the invited. I did get a call last year where they invited me to be the keynote speaker at the International Pizza Expo. One of two keynote speakers.
Wow.
Tony G was the other keynote speaker. So I was like, that level of acknowledgement. I felt a little bit of that imposter syndrome of like, who am I to
Oh
talk
yeah.
in front of the entire
That's
pizza
like,
world?
I've had this podcast for like this is like episode 14. It's like me getting invited to the podcast Emmys and being the keynote speaker with Joe Rogan.
Yeah, yeah, that is definitely nervous getting on stage, but as I was digging through kind of the history of why what I like, I had to do a lot of self-reflection of like, what am I actually doing, and realizing that my family has always been in the food business. I've always been interested in food engineering. It sort of I told that story on stage 3 weeks ago, and uh, I think it went great.
Yeah.
I was very nervous walking on stage. I think, oh, there was a point where we in sound check they asked me what song I wanted to walk on stage to,
Yeah.
and I had this like crisis moment. Then I realized I should pick a Jay Z song, and so I
Oh
picked.
yeah. I mean, you were probably contractually obliged to, right?
Yeah, so I picked Rock Boys, which was a very kind of not super popular song, but I loved it,
Yeah.
and so.
I mean, look,
Um,
you could have done a lot more controversial ones, so I feel like that was probably a good choice.
Yeah, and then I think I won people over when I put up a slide. I talked about all the things that I learned as a rocket scientist and all the lessons I learned at SpaceX and how they could be applied to the food world. And I ended with a slide that said, "Running a restaurant is not rocket science. It's way harder." And
That's
and
good. I like that. I like that because you're showing your audience you recognize how hard their jobs are too.
it is way harder building a food business than it is to design something. Like in engineering, there's like the laws of physics. You do one thing, you know exactly what's going to happen, right? Whereas
Yeah,
in the restaurant world, you do one thing and you have no idea what's going to happen. Like customers could like it,
absolutely.
they could hate it, right?
Yeah. Well, it's funny
So
when you were saying the piece about, venture capitalists who have started coffee shops and whatnot, like
yep,
you often forget like being good at food is probably the least important prerequisite to opening a restaurant
yep,
sometimes. Like
yep,
how many times has someone thrown a good dinner party and their friends were like, "Oh, you should totally open a restaurant." And then maybe they do and it turns out to be a disaster.
yeah,
What you really need is sort of that business vision, sort of like in your case, it sounds like the scientific understanding of
yep.
how the product is going to work as well. So to me, it kind of makes sense that transferable skills really matter in this industry.
Yeah, good business sense and good strategic partnership, relationship building. All of the skills that you need to build any business are sort of common across industries.
Yeah.
And food just, it just depends on what you're passionate about and what you want to build in. But definitely, like, people who are passionate about food aren't necessarily passionate about building a business, and finding the right people who want to do that
Yeah.
is rare.
So
Yeah.
you mentioned burgers, tacos, burritos. I'm curious, and boba. Could you ever go back to boba, your original love? I'm curious, what do you think is like the next frontier?
uh it's really I've thought, back and forth. I think fried chicken and fries is super interesting, but
Mm,
boba, I love boba a lot. The problem with boba is the market is way too small, and teaching people maybe in the Midwest to chew and drink at the same time is pretty challenging, I think.
yeah. No. Well, speaking of that, though, I have an idea, and you're gonna
Yeah.
tell me all the reasons this
Sure.
is the wrong idea.
Yeah.
But you mentioned affordability, you
Yep.
mentioned, the, food deserts too, and
Yep.
we know that, like, a big problem with food deserts is oftentimes nutrition as well, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And also, you're starting here in Los Angeles, and it just, started my brain thinking, "What's popular here in the city of LA?" Smoothies. I mean, if you could like bring a cost of of like an Erewhon smoothie down from like $9 to $6 or something like that, and they were the same quality, you would get tons of people, at least in LA.
There was a company that was doing this. They were called Ono Food Co. And they've pivoted to building bowls or automation equipment to make bowls. But they had a smoothie robot truck, and it was actually quite delicious. I
Hmm.
think the challenges of building a business like that and encouraging people to eat healthier is that a smoothie is maybe not something that people like. The frequency in which most people get smoothies is pretty
Yeah.
low, versus, on any given day 14% of America eats pizza,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So my take on nutrition long term is, maybe, if I can get more people to eat veggie pizza
Yeah.
and less meat. Pizza's already pretty good on the meat, or like meat consumption index, because like it's very little meat per serving. But
Yeah. It's true.
one idea that I've toyed with is maybe not charging for vegetables, and charging only for meat, and trying to get people to slowly change their habits. If I had built a salad robot and driven it into a food desert, I'm not sure that it would be
No.
that great initially,
Yeah,
right?
no, no, no. No, you're right. You gotta meet people where they're at. I think the
Yeah,
idea of not charging for vegetables is absolutely brilliant. I'm not sure how you would make that work,
yeah,
from a business sense, but I like the idea of getting people through the door somehow
yep,
is, the your heart's in the right place, and I applaud that.
yeah.
Well, good to know that my smoothie idea was complete shit. But you know what? Hey, if I'm telling you, if you brought that smoothie robot to an Equinox and just licensed it, look,
Yep.
there's an audience. This is so interesting. So, what's the goal long term for Stellar Pizza? Who is your? Obviously, you have a vision. You have things that you want to do, but is the goal here to take on frozen pizza? Is it to take on the big pizza like Domino's and Papa John's and these guys? Like, who are you coming for?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, the food industry is a very fascinating like place. Like Domino's, the largest player in the pizza world, pizza market, they own 7% of the market or something, a very, very small fraction, right? So
Yeah,
there's room, like nobody wants to eat Domino's every single day. Someone might rotate between Domino's, Papa John's, and hopefully, us eventually. And so we're trying to be Stellar Pizza itself is trying to be a household, name. And I tell everyone and anyone who will listen that we're trying to build the in and out for pizza.
I
So
like
so
that.
you're not going to find arugula on our pizza. It's going to be like pretty standard, well, like affordable, high quality pizza. That's just
Yeah.
the basics.
I like that comp because yeah, your prices are really good. I was looking at the menu the other day. It's under
Yeah.
$10 for a personal pizza, right?
Well, it's not a personal. It's a 12-inch, so that's a medium
12
at
it. Well,
Domino's. Yeah.
depends who
But
you are.
depends.
Depends who you are. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, our cheese pizzas at this, today is 7.95, and we're always reevaluating. Obviously, the rest of all of our costs of ingredients are going up, but we're actually pretty reasonably priced for compared to the rest of the market because we don't have real estate costs and we don't have the large amount of labor you might need to staff a restaurant.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting. Well, look, I can't wait to try Stellar Pizza. I'm gonna be having it this weekend at Pizza City Fest, but I
Yeah.
also have my calendar marked for when you guys are at USC. Unfortunately, I didn't have this when I was at USC.
Sure.
It would have saved me a lot of late night all meat burritos. But that's neither here nor there. I'm curious
Yeah.
as a food passionate person, what are
Mhm.
you eating when you're out and about? What kind of food are you enjoying recently?
Well, so for pizza, we actually every employee at the company gets a pizza stipend. We need to understand what the pizza world is like outside our pizza world,
Hey
and
Benson,
so
Benson,
yeah.
unrelated question. Are you hiring?
Yeah, always. So I do go around trying other people's pizza, and I don't get sick of pizza. There's so many different takes on it, right? It's literally just carbs and cheese and sauces, and there's so many variations. Um, I personally tend to kind of get excited about very, very low cost, high, hot, delicious food. So I'm not a fancy
Hmm.
person. I don't eat at fancy restaurants. I
Well,
love
real
the
quick,
hole in the walls. Yeah.
what are your favorite pizzas you've had recently?
Jelena on Venice. So that's a fancy restaurant, but I think their pizzas, the kinds of pizzas that they have are just so unique, and the
Yeah,
quality in which their crust is genuinely delicious. It
yeah.
is really good. Um, but I also like eating like Papa John's. Their garlic sauce dip is delicious
Aw.
too, right? On occasion.
Yeah, no, the garlic sauce definitely has a place in the canon. That's the
Yeah,
reason you get Papa John's, right?
that's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
absolutely.
That's
I
right.
hear that.
So
I am curious. You know what I am curious about? I really appreciate the in and out ethos, the simplicity that you guys are going with. But the only times I get tempted to order the Pizza Huts and these is when they roll out these like pretzel crusts or
yeah,
like,
yeah.
like those novelty things. I'm a sucker for those.
So there's actually one of my favorite places. It's in my hometown, but also in Gardena here. It's called Pizza and Chicken Love Letter, and it's a Korean pizza. So they'll have like Korean bulgogi, and their crust is stuffed with sweet potato, and they'll have corn. It's a
Ooh,
really good Korean style pizza that I just like. I get my entire company loves it. Like we'll order that for catering sometimes.
wow.
Yeah,
That's it. That
yeah,
sounds great. I've been to one in Koreatown called the Koreatown Pizza Company,
yeah,
and
yeah,
I had a sweet potato crust
yeah,
there. And
yeah.
I remember thinking this is just gonna be a gimmick, not excited,
Hmm.
but it adds so much in terms of texture and flavor. It's like the OG and best kind of stuffed crust, if you ask me.
Yes, yes, better than the cheese. So yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Um,
Hey, where can people find you? Where can people find Stellar?
Yeah, so you can follow us on Instagram at Eat Stellar Pizza, and generally our schedule gets posted on our website also at eatstellarpizza.com, where you can find us. We're at USC or UCLA Westwood Village area, and our trucks are kind of putzing around, usually late night. Other than that, at lunches, we're also doing catering for corporate events, and like our truck can pop up and serve like 100 people in an hour. So
Wow. Wish I knew
we're
that
doing.
before I got married. Um, Other thing is what day are you going to be at Pizza City Fest?
We are there Sunday. So
Okay.
Sunday, I'll be there noon to 5.
Which is perfect, listeners, actually, because Saturday is sold out at Pizza City Fest, but Sunday there are still tickets, so you can still get your ticket and go check out Benson.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, hey, thank you so much for joining us.
Sure. Thanks for letting me share my story and talk about pizza. I just I'm really excited for people to try our pizza.
Hey, look, when you go on How I Built This, just remember this conversation, never forget your roots. No, I'm just kidding. Thanks, Benson. Really
Yeah.
appreciate it, and I'll see you at Pizza City Fest then.
Sure. Yeah. See you Sunday.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the LA Food Podcast. Thanks to Benson Tsai for joining us. If you like what you heard, please go to wherever you listen to podcasts, leaving a rating, a review, give us a follow if you should be so inclined. If you're looking for me, you can reach me at the LA Countdown on TikTok and Instagram. That's TheLaCounTDOWN.